for humanity.
The time is exactly 8:42 a.m. and we cross over to China, and we will be joined by Zoon Ahmed Khan. She's a journalist and research fellow at the Rhodes Strategy Institute in China to talk about the talks between Indian and Chinese army commanders to disengage troops from key friction areas along their border. This has ended in a stalemate and has failed to ease a 17-month standoff that has sometimes led to deadly clashes, and both obviously parties are pointing fingers at the other. Zoon, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam, Julie. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. So now we've reached the stage of stalemate. You have the Indians pointing fingers at the Chinese and vice versa. How far back does this conflict go, and why do we have this situation, this border conflict situation?
Well, actually, I think the real idea of the understanding between India and China go back decades. These border misunderstandings, border disputes have existed for a very long time, even at the time of partition. So really the question is that how can these two countries maybe eventually resolve these disputes, but at the same time also ensure that a functional relationship that is beneficial for their people can thrive despite maybe pending issues that have need resolution. So that said, the recent, like you said, 17-month standoff, this goes back to during COVID-19, actually, in May, that border clashes erupted. Of course, both sides have a different view on how those clashes actually happened and what is the exact number of casualties on both sides. But that said, it was the first time that we saw casualties between these two neighboring countries, the two biggest countries in terms of population in the world, after the war after decades. So the point is, this definitely is a worrying situation. And after that initial clash and those initial casualties, we see border tensions. We see tens of thousands of troops backed with military arms stationed at the border, but we don't see more casualties. So there is a stable but tense situation that both are in currently. I do, however, also want to point out that for now, a stalemate has been reached, and the specific terms that they both are not able to agree to being proposed from the other side are not being openly stated. We know that the Chinese are saying that the Indians are not agreeing to what is acceptable to us, and vice versa, this is what the Indians are saying. So it seems that both have drawn red lines of beyond, they will not budge beyond this point, and these lines are unacceptable to either side. However, from my own understanding, some people that I've spoken to, it seems likely that for another winter, we will see this amount of troops, this amount of tension, so to speak, at the border, at this border. But it is still possible that they have said, we will continue the negotiation, let's continue the talks. It's still possible that they can reach a point that is acceptable to both sides, and we see relative de-escalation. So I'm not very hopeful, but it's still a bleak possibility that they can reach this kind of a mutually agreeable arrangement. And another thing to also note is that we're talking about the western border. So China and India share a very long border that goes from the far east of India to the western region. So we have seen small incidents. One I will point out here is that in Uttarakhand, which is for China, that's southern Tibet, a minister visited. There was some incidents over there. That was also a cause of friction between both sides. So we see some isolated incidents here and there that are building up towards an overall misunderstanding and mistrust.
Okay, so sadly, we all know the global community do realize that China is an emerging superpower, as is India, and obviously a huge threat to Western powers. What needs to happen here for consensus to be reached between the two countries? It's clearly about control of territory, is it not?
It's a very important question you bring up. You see, Interestingly, I mentioned that this misunderstanding, this dispute goes back decades, especially because we have seen the China-India relationship evolve, improve, and both sides can benefit immensely. You talk 3, 4 years ago, a lot of Indian companies, because they're used to the scale of India, they also have developed with a population of over 1 billion people. So despite some misunderstandings, maybe some existing issues that need to be resolved, both sides have been able to move forward and prioritize development, trade, economy, technological transfer, all of that, which is obviously beneficial for both. But now what we see in the bigger picture is that now this Quad, which is supposed, it's a partnership, but it is postured somehow from Beijing's perspective, and the way the language is coming out of Quad, sometimes we're talking about the US, Japan, Australia, and India coming together. This really is a cause of mistrust between China and India. And this is because it's a grouping that is excluding China. And also we see that overall, from China's calculus, and you look at the communication coming out of Washington in general, it seems to be trying to tackle, like you mentioned, this rise can be a threat to Western powers, supposedly, right? So this Quad is also seen as one more way, one more means, one more grouping to contain China in some way. And India being a part of it definitely is not helping the relationship improve. And I think this is something that they will both need to address in a better way. For India, of course, in India also, there are mixed views about this. They do understand that they stand to benefit a lot from Chinese investment. The scale at which China can invest in India. And a lot of these plans have been folded now because the relationship is uncertain, and some policies that India announced were not suitable for Chinese investors. So in this sort of situation, I think it will require talks on a broader level. And it will require some ease of, maybe ideally we shouldn't have a situation globally where you see US-China overall misunderstandings playing out in different areas, having different manifestations. And it seems that the India-China relationship is also suffering because of this global atmosphere that has been created. So I personally think that we still have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization mechanism. It's not a security alliance or something like that at all, but it is still a mechanism. It's a platform that both are sharing. Another small example is that just a few days ago, the Indian ambassador announced that China has allowed the import of the first India's anti-cancer drug. This is a positive development. So we see these bouts of positive developments. It's not that there is zero interaction and zero cooperation between both countries, but the trajectory has gone downhill in the last few years. And so far, no major signs are visible to ensure that this direction changes completely. Personally, I think it is obviously both sides can benefit from greater cooperation. But for India and for developing countries in general, I think we serve to lose more if technologies that are affordable for our people are not coming in. That is something that can definitely have long-term consequences with respect to the pace at which we can develop and transform. So what could be a game changer? I think better talk. I think more talking and compartmentalizing.
And we look forward to that. We do look forward to an understanding between the two countries. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it there. Zoon Ahmed Khan brilliantly expressed to us very concisely. We now understand the situation all the more better. Zoon is journalist and research fellow at the Rhodes Strategy Institute in China. Thank you indeed once again for your time. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Thank you.